Hey everybody, what's up? This is hya.sin, and today I want to show you the beat that I submitted for week 14 of Baauer's Beat Challenge. So without further ado, let's just dive straight into it. I had a lot of fun with this challenge. Let's just do a little playthrough so you can get, like the vibe of the beat, and then I'll dive straight into it.
Tokyo, let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Tokyo, let's go! Let's go! Let's go!
By hya.sin.
Let's go! Let's go! Tokyo, let's go! Tokyo, let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Tokyo, let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Tokyo, let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Tokyo, let's go!
Yeah, so that's the beat. It's really interesting. I was watching a documentary. It's by James May, who's the Top Gear presenter. You might know him. And the documentary is called James May, Our Man in Japan. So I was watching about Japan, and I thought it was a really fascinating documentary. And then I realized that I had some Japanese samples in my sample library. Let's just have a look. Yeah, all of this stuff. Oh, that smacks. But yeah, I found some nice vocals. Yeah, I found some nice vocals in there, and I thought, let's go make a beat about Japan. So let's start with like some of the most important elements in any beat. So let's have a look at the bass. Let me just solo that. So this is what's happening in terms of the processing. We've got a high pass filter, sorry, at 30 Hertz. And then this is the audio effect rack. So we've got the dry signal coming through, and then I've got a bit of Santoi's decapitator mixed in with the beefy preset. So just adding a bit of the standard distortion. And then I've got a glue compressor gluing it all together. Very fast sort of attack, very fast sort of release. Obviously, with bass, like you can slam the compressor up like quite high, because you really want that sort of like a wall of sound effect. You don't want like the attack and the release to be like too fast, because then you might introduce some distortion. And then we move on to the kick. So the kick has a high pass filter at 108 Hz, so it doesn't compete with the bass. With the kick, though, I did want distortion. So that's why I chose like the fastest attack release, and so really slamming the kick into the soft clipper. And this is a really cool free tool. It's called Smexoscope. Let's see who made it actually. By Smart Electronics. So what this tool is, it shows you the waveform of the audio coming through. So without, let's just take the glue compressor off, and this is what the kick would sound like. And then this is with the glue compressor on. So it just smacks a bit more. Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a happy Christmas. Stay safe. Enjoy the holidays. Stay indoors. Bop indoors. Yeah, but so I really wanted a distorted kick so that it can kind of smack.
Let's go!
Sorry. Cool. And then let's just move on to the snare. So again, just taking out the body, the extreme low end of the snare, not the body, sorry. Then we've got the Valhalla room with reverbs. Like you just want to keep it really, really low, like 10%. If you're going like above like 20%, in my view, unless it's like a lead sound or something that you're going like a ambient thing that you're going for, it's gonna be just way too much. It's gonna ruin the musicality of your sound because it ruins like the rhythm. It just completely sort of messes up the rhythm. Too much reverb. But you can do other things, like you can sidechain the reverb as well if you want. That might help. Yes, this is the Tokyo sample. But because this was a beat challenge, let's actually have a look at the Mura Masa sample. That was super cool, and I'll show you what I did for that one. So typical high pass filter. I didn't do anything for the original. I kept it as it is. But for the drop, this uses the Mura Masa sample. So I transformed the Mura Masa sample into this, and this is kind of like hidden away. Like if you're paying attention like to the element in the beat, then you might pick up on this. But you know, the bells in the Tokyo, it sort of drowns this out. So this is like the A section of the drop. And then I've got that little chunk just sort of repeating for like the B section of the drop. Maybe if I can, I'll see if I still have the processing I did for that one. Yeah. So what I did was, first I ran the Mura Masa sample through Portal. Using this Wacko Wobbles preset. And then what I really liked was like some of the like chops, like not even the main stuff, just some of like the really tiny quiet parts like this. Where is it? Nope. Yeah, if you can listen closely to this. Yeah. That's what I liked. And I thought, let's go, use that element in the drop. And then I mangled it up a bit. Yeah, so I mangled it up a bit with Portal. And then after that, I just dragged that stuff back in up here, chopped it up a bit more, and it sounds different because I applied a lot more processing to that one. So all of like the processing, like the initial stuff, plus all of the ideas that don't really work out, I put it in a group called Unused, and I don't delete it. I was watching a Twitch stream by mix engineer Alex Tomei, and he said, like hard drives, storage is so cheap nowadays. It literally costs nothing. You have terabytes and terabytes of space, and why would you delete anything? I mean, like I do see like producers on Twitch whatnot, and if they don't like an idea, they just straight up delete it. But for me, having this means that if something doesn't work out above, I can always come back down here to all of like the junk and the scrapyard to see if I can find new inspiration, new ideas. So that's my tip. Don't delete anything. Just put it aside. Even like all of this stuff, just off to the side. I don't use it, but it was just ideas that, you know, like never really worked out. So that's just my tip. Keep that there. So we've covered snare, kick, and bass. Alright, so let's just have a look at that portal sample. What did I do? So high pass filter, a bit of OTT at 50%, audio effect rack. So I've got the dry signal, and then I've got a bit of Valhalla room coming through. The thing is, even though I said earlier you don't have reverb at 100%, or you don't have reverb like over 20% or something, this one here, like it's in parallel. So, you know, like, you know, it doesn't, like, it's still probably a bit too much reverb, but, you know, I thought it fit in the song because I like lowered the volume and it sort of gels into the background. Then I compressed it all, and then I've got this really cool like vocal doubler plugin by Isotope. I believe it's free. So you can see it just makes the sound a bit better. I think that's pretty cool for like lead sounds. And again, about that reverb, if I take it off, so you can see what I was saying earlier, like I don't feel like that's too much reverb. I don't feel like it's drowning out the musicality of the song, and that's what I'd recommend, like to new producers. I see lots of like new songs, like by new producers who are just starting, just too much reverb. It's all about subtlety, like in my view. You want it to like blend with the lead. You don't want it to like drown out the lead. All right, so let's move on to the Tokyo.
Let's go, let's go, Tokyo, let's go, Tokyo, let's go. Let's go, let's go.
High pass filter, audio effect rack, so dry signal, and then
let's go, let's
Sound Toys Echo Boy on this classic tape slap preset, and that's a vocal preset. So
let's go, let's go, Tokyo, let's go, Tokyo, let's go. Let's go, let's go, Tokyo, let's go. Let's go, let's go, Tokyo, let's go, Tokyo.
So that's what the Sound Toys does. What I did was reduce the dry signal a little bit to give that to give the process signal just a bit more space. And this isn't even like one of the Japanese samples. I think I just typed in vocals into my sample library, and I had a rummage, and yeah, this vocal has nothing to do with Tokyo. It didn't come through like the Japanese pack, but I thought it fit like it. Alright, you know what I was talking about earlier about reverb? Fuck that. Just do what sounds good. There. Alright. So, high pass filter, this is the audio effect rack. So I've got the Valhalla Supermassive mix all the way at 100%, but again, this is like in parallel, it's not in series. So again, I was trying to keep it subtle. More reverb, Valhalla room. Again, this is what happens when you sort of play the two together. It sounds very nice and very pleasant. Very pleasant. I think Valhalla Supermassive is a great plugin, and it's free as well. And then we've got the glue compressor, just gluing everything together. Again, you don't want too much of too fast an attack. You just want to keep the transients coming through, especially for like vocals, and keep the release nice and slow. Again, being vocals, you want it like very minimal. So, the compressor is doing its job, but it's quite subtle. And then I've got this plugin by Brainworks. It's called BX Refinement, and it's for harshness control. So let's have a look without that. And then let's put it on and try again. So it's just doing like its title, just removing some of the harshness in the song. This came from a India pack that I have. I thought that was nice. Just a little feel, and again, it's got Soundtoys Echo Boy, and just a bit of Valhalla plate. It's really cool, like switch it up. You don't always like use room reverb every time. You can switch it up, blend different reverbs like in the same song, and it just adds a bit of variation. And then another vocal fill from my India pack. This one with the Echo Boy turned off. So I've covered all of these. Yep. Alright. What's this? This I just typed in vocal. This didn't come from like the India or the Japanese pack. I thought it was like a very sort of Baauer-esque sort of vocal. Again, a bit of compression on it, high pass filter, and this is sort of the I think the catchiest thing of the song, even if I do sort of say so myself. So let's see what's going on here. So you've got a high pass filter, and boy, like the bell, just so much sort of resonance on it, like you just get really, really sick of it like after a while. So in order to sort of make it palatable, I've got 2 EQs just to really, really dampen down on those resonances. And with EQs, there is this really cool thing called oversampling. I think this might be an EQ3, I'm not sure, but I know for sure it's on EQ8. So turn on the oversampling. So basically it does use just a little bit more CPU, but it improves the quality of the filters. So if I solo the track, let's just hear what happens if I turn off oversampling. Let's have a look at the CPU usage as well. Yeah, right. Let's go. And then let's turn these on. And you can tell like it does, affect the filter shape as well. Keep an eye on that CPU. Yeah, I don't think it even really made a difference. But it did, hopefully you can tell it did, it might have subtly affected, the response of the bells and how it sounded. So triple EQs, lots of EQ going on there just to really damp it down. And then this EQ is there just to keep an eye on things. It was more like a spectrum analyzer. And then I have this compressor here. This compressor, I tried it. I kind of liked it, but I didn't delete it. I just simply turned it off. And this is what I was saying, don't delete. If you like it, just turn it off, save it. If it's not really the right fit, duplicate it and try again. And I have attack super fast, really super slow. Basically what I want to do is really clamp down on those transients, and I want the compressor to hold them. And then I've got some plate reverb. Okay, so all of my advice about reverb earlier, just fuck that, you know, and do as you wish. And then I've got the BX refinement, which is the harshness control. So let's see what happens if I turn that off. So very ugly. A bit more palatable. And then we've got a utility to boost the gain. And then another EQ, this one again, just to see what's going on. I probably should have like cut out that low end. I was reading this quote the other day that, you know, taking all of this stuff out, it's like removing a pebble on the runway while the 808 is like a jumbo jet. So some people think that it might not be worth it to be that sort of, you know, I gotta clean sweep everything. Other people do like think they just like to have that nice clean slate. I like to have that nice clean slate, but I guess this is like a slip up. Like I didn't notice that. What's next? So this one is different because I think there's a bit of automation on here. So that's the automation going on the volume. And then for the second part of this, volume is constant throughout. Now, let's go to some of the more fun stuff, like some of the stuff that I learned from Baauer's stream, or something that he uses a lot, percussion. So, nothing happening in terms of processing here. And then here's another pack. And then this one. And this one. So with these two, there is a bit of processing going on. So for this one, it was just clamping down on those transients, and then a small bit of reverb. Again, a different reverb, I think, compared to some of the other ones, just to add a bit more variation. I think I might have just duplicated. No, so I've varied it up just a little bit, just so that, you know, like they can fit each other a bit better. This is what happens when I all of the percussion together. Hey, that's nice and groovy. And then this is the other part, the B section of the drum. Yeah, so really groovy, really sexy. Another fill here. Nothing happening there in terms of processing, nothing much. A siren. And then this was the riser. So your stock standard riser with a bit of automation. Let's have a look at the automation going on. I think it was like only a few elements that were automated. There we go. Just two automated elements in the song. And then lastly, I've got my own tag in here, which is really cool.
By hya.sin.
I never telling you where I got that from. Let's have a look at the sidechain.
By hya.sin.
Alright, so what's going on? So we've got the oh snare, we've got the kick. I've got the EQs turned on, so I've got a low pass filter for the snare at 30 Hz, and then a high pass on the kick, and although at the maximum of 15 Hz. You might ask, why did I do this? When I EQ'd the snare and like took the low end out of it. That's because even with the filter on, there's still going to be that little bit of low end, and that's going to, I think that's going to be like really sort of transient like. So I've got medium, like fast attack, I guess, and then sort of similar release. And you can tell it's slightly different for the kick, because I want the kick to stand out, so I want the kick to sidechain the song a bit better than the snare. And that's a tip that I would give when you set up your sidechain. Maybe just tweak the elements just a little bit slightly, and for dance music, maybe try and make the kick just stand up a bit more with a slightly faster attack. And both of them are set to peak mode, of course. Yeah, so that's the sidechain. Now, again, like I said, this is the unused, all of the stuff that I played around with. I think this was one of the first things I tried. It was a percussion. And I thought it might come off as a good kick. And I tried to EQ that mofo, but it still wouldn't fit the song, so I thought, let's just get rid of it. Just like some arrangement stuff. And then once I printed the portal effect, then I just brought it down here, and I didn't use that ever again. So when my entire beat was finished and I thought I was really happy with that, then I printed it. So it's coming in from the master. This is the master. There's nothing on there because I'm going to show you that file in a second, that project. So I just have the gain turned all the way down for mastering purposes. And I don't even have the bass mono, because I'll show you that later as well. So just audio coming in from the master, and then I don't want this to feed back into the master, so I just put this on sends only. So, and I don't have like anything like, it's just gonna record just the audio coming into the master. That's it. So once I printed that, then I do this. Firstly, I just save and collect it, and then I go here, I go show in Finder, and then I figure out where it is, and then I create a new mastering folder, and then I drag that into the mastering folder. So this is what I did for mastering. So thank you for coming on the ride with me. Let's keep going. So this is like part 2. So I watched a tutorial online and the tutor, he had this template set up for like, so what's going on here is that the mastering, this is your print, it's going to the master effects rack, which is this one, and then the master effects rack is going to the metering, which is this one here, and then the reference tracks, these go to metering, and then basically you can assign hotkeys. So I've got key 1 going for reference 1, key 2 going for reference 2, and M going for this one here. So I've literally the click of number 1, number 2, or M, you can see things are happening on the right side of the screen. That's how you can quickly solo the reference number 1 or solo reference number 2, or you can switch to your own song. So I thought this was really handy. Obviously, I don't have any reference files this time around. I should have, but you know, I just thought, well, let's just go wing it. And there's nothing on the master, because what's going on here to metering, actually this one was set to external out directly. It's only when I finally print it that I want to send it out to the master. Otherwise, just keep it on external out. And so, mastering goes to master effects. This is what's happening on the master effects. Firstly, I've got the utility just driving that gain up, and now I do have the bass set to mono at 108 Hz. And then I have a multi-band dynamics. Sorry about that.
Tokyo, let's
Hopefully
go.
that makes it a bit more palatable. And I'll raise the volume later, but I'll give you an advance warning when I do so. So I've got a multi-band dynamics. I realized that perhaps the bass was just a bit too loud and overpowering. So I just reduced the low end.
Let's go.
This is what happens without that.
By hya.sin.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yep. So I just thought it might help the kick stand out a bit more as well. A little bit of a saturator around 8000 Hz, because when I had a look at the metering, or even a simple EQ can tell you. Let's just drag an EQ rate on here. Let's turn off the saturator. So this is what it's like.
By hya.sin.
Pay attention to like that's over.
Let's go.
I just felt like it was lacking a little bit, like in that area. So I added a bit of saturation in that area. And then this is the mid side of it. So for the side,
By hya.sin.
completely removing any sort of residual low frequencies from the sides.
By hya.sin.
And I was pretty happy with the balance of the song, so I didn't do anything in terms of mastering on the main EQ.
By hya.sin.
And I've got a glue compressor to catch the peaks, and this is gonna be like the fun stuff, because I'm gonna show you how I got my track loud.
By hya.sin.
So you can see all of, like, the really peaky stuff. So without any of this like peaks catching thing, if you go from here directly into your limiter, what it's going to do is that all of these peaks, they're going to slam into that limiter, and it's going to make the limiter work even though like it's gonna make it work unnecessarily, and that's why like the more you push your song into the limiter, the more it's gonna distort. So you have to shave off those really high peaks, so then that saves your limiter work, which means you can crank it a bit more to get a louder volume. So have a good look at sort of where the peaks are ending up, and then let's just move the stroke here. So you can tell all of those peaks have been pretty much shaved off. That's because super fast attack, super fast release, really smashing that compression. So that's just step one. And then I've got a second compressor, and this one's set to RMS mode because now I want to get the bass, I want to get the entire dynamics of the song to like squeeze together a bit more. So let's just have a look at the waveform, have a look at all of that stuff. And then let's just switch it over here. So it does introduce a bit more peaks, but because this is set to RMS mode, basically it's raising the average perceived volume of the sound. The thing is, at this sort of stage, you want to keep the release very slow, the release sort of medium, the attack very slow. You want to keep it nice and musical. And what happens if you set your attack too fast at this stage, then the kick, like you're gonna ruin, like you want a bit of transience like in your song. And then this part, so the reason you want a bit of transience in your song is that obviously if there's like no transience in your song, nothing's gonna feel like it's punching, everything's gonna feel like it's the same. You want the kick to punch through, you want the snare to punch through just a little bit, so you do need a little bit of those peaks, but you don't want too much. So now I have this Clip Max, which is a free hard clipping tool, just to shave off the final transients. So have a look, this is before. And then this is what happens when I put the Clip Max on here. And that's the ceiling. So just completely shaving off the top and the bottom. So is it going to introduce distortion? Yes, it's hard clipping. It's going to introduce distortion just a little bit. But if you want to get your track louder, this is what you got to do. And if you keep it nice and subtle, then the distortion, like it's almost sort of inaudible, like most people are not going to say. So once that happens, then finally I can just boost the gain a bit more and then put it into the mastering limiter, which is the Brainworks XIV. And then on the mastering limiter, set the ceiling to minus 0.2, sorry, so you don't want any sort of final clipping in the analog world going on. And then I've got a small bit of a gain boost just to, push the limiter just a bit. If you didn't have any of this processing happening before, like in terms of like shaving up the transients or whatever, you might be tempted just to like push that out to get the loudness. Yeah, it's not gonna work, buddy. You need to like shave off the transients and do things like that to get it looking a bit flat, the waveform, and then after that you can push the limiter like this. So this is what it looks like, just boosting the gain from the utility, and then this is what it looks like coming out of the limiter.
Let's go.
Can you make it even flatter than this? Yes, you can, I suppose. And I did try that, but it was just like distorting too much. And it was sort of ruining like the vibe that I wanted for the song. So now, without further ado, this is where the loudness warning comes in. What I'm going to do is show you like before and after. So lower the volume if you have to, because I'm going to raise it gradually.
Let's go, let's go, don't kill, let's go, don't kill, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's go, don't kill, let's go, don't kill.
So I'm sorry if you're gonna get annoyed by listening to that section over and over again. Right. So again, loudness warning. If you're just tuning in like right at this minute, there's a loudness warning.
Let's go, don't kill, let's go, don't kill, let's go, let's go, don't kill, let's go, let's go, don't kill, let's go, let's go.
So that's how I got my track quite loud. So this is the metering. So all of this processing is going into the metering. Sometimes, like, I didn't really use it this much except for the BX meter. I'll show you that in a second. Most of what I was looking at, I just simply dragged an EQ8 sometimes, or I used the spectroscope. I used that quite a lot. So most of my metering was done like on this track. But this track is useful because I put a BX meter on there. You can use the spectrum, you can make the spectrum quite big. I just put it here because that's what I saw in the template by the tutor that I saw online. But you know, like I like using the EQ8 to sort of see what's going on. And this is the Brainworks meter. And so like for loudness, I was going for the goal of -7 RMS because I again saw online that -7 is loud. Like it's sort of the standard loudness. So let's just play it through this section, loudness warning once more.
Let's go, don't kill, let's go, don't kill, let's go, let's go.
So hopefully you saw -0.2 for the peak. That's because the limiter was reducing that, and then we hit our sort of -7 target. So once I submit this, like when I submitted this to the Baauer's Beat Challenge in that thread, it's gonna like compete like in terms of volume. So when I'm printing it, turn that off, you don't need that. And when you're printing it, you don't need this mexoscope as well. So turn off all that stuff. It's just good practice, even if they don't really do anything. So metering, so the master effects goes into metering, and then you set the metering to go into the master, which has nothing on there. After that, it's happy days, buddy. You just go and print it. In terms of, do I have anything here? I have to read more about tethering. That's, you know, on my to-do list. I don't really understand what that's about, so that's one of the challenges for me to learn. There's so much I still have to learn. Like, you know, the other Kings and Barrows community, they're insanely talented, and perhaps if they're viewing this, some of the more advanced users, this tutorial probably doesn't cut the mustard. But for perhaps like producers just starting out, maybe sort of my tutorial is sort of like in the middle, so to speak. It's sort of like maybe a sort of intermediate, or maybe even like a beginner sort of tutorial. And if you know you can learn anything from this tutorial, if you've absorbed anything, That's really great. That's all I can ask for. And now it's probably time to sort of hit up the big boys and sort of learn like more advanced techniques, because that's precisely what I'm going to be doing. So this is just what I've learned so far. Again, like, thanks so much for watching and joining today. And I'll see you all again. Hya.sin. Have a great day, stay safe, enjoy the Christmas. Bye bye.